the original bracket for the reservoir wasn't going to work, so I kind of fabbed one up, kind of based on how the original was. Plan is for it to go like that, and then that'll push the hoses, kind of aim them down towards that hole. This came from a junkyard, so that's rock hard. And I got some new hose. Once we get this in there, figure out the length for the hose. The plan is it'll sit just about like that. And I got some self-tapping screws. Hope I can reach it. Hope this will fit. I didn't think of that. Okay, that's pretty good, and I can actually pull it out to get the hoses on it. So let's go under the car and work on that part. The way the brake fluid entered the old master cylinder was through this hose up to the reservoir. This is a new version of the old master cylinder, so this thing just poked down in there, and that's what held the seal. With the new version, there are metal and plastic tubes available from Porsche that run down. They're like $150 a piece because the master cylinder is mounted up on the fender well, so they're like 3 feet long. We're not going to do that in this case. So based on what that looks like, I bought this piece of 5/16 brake pipe. I'm going to cut this in half. We're going to reutilize that flared piece on there, and that should seal inside that grommet. So first we're going to try to bend this, and then we'll probably cut it in half. So we're going to actually not utilize these nuts. I'm just leaving this long to be able to use the leverage of the length. This is my bending tool. Fits best right there. Bend, I don't know, not quite a 90. We'll bend about a 75-degree angle on there. And it kinked it a little bit, but it should still let fluid in. Let's try the other side. We'll try it on the shorter one, or on the smaller tubing. I actually did a little better. I like that one a little better. We may try to put this in the vise and just squeeze that kink out a little bit. There. That's actually pretty good. We'll go with that. I'm going to deburr this. It's probably not the preferred method, but it'll work. I bought this piece of brake fluid compatible hose that we will slip on here, but I want a little barb or something to kind of hold that on there and secure it and help seal it. similar to that. So what we're going to do is I have a metric bubble flaring tool. We'll put a bubble flare on it. This is 5/16 brake line, which might as well be 8mm, pretty much the same thing. It's one of those crossover metric sizes. The US sizes fit. So what we need to do with this, get it to slide through here a little bit. Based on my flaring kit, you set the height right about there. Tighten the flaring tool. This is 8mm little bubbling bubble flare adapter, I guess what you'd say. Tighten that till it bottoms out. Not the prettiest thing you've ever seen, so that slipped a little bit. So let's try the other one. There, that's a little more what I was expecting. Now this hose should slip over that, and that should make a nice tight seal. We shouldn't have to clamp that or anything, I'm hoping. And since the other one's jacked up, let me see if I can cut some off and redo it, or that's the one that, yeah, there's a little kink in it. We'll just buy a new piece. Those are the two tube pieces, flared. Go this one, the back, because it's so close to the firewall. Hope this works. Dip in a little bit of brake fluid. Squeeze it down in there. Do the same with that one. Now I'm going to stick it in the car so we can figure out the hose length, because there's not going to be any way to get them on with it in the car. I cut some rough lengths of brake hose. Now my hope is that we can just slip these on here. So now put this in the car and try to fish these up into the smuggler's box so we can cut off whatever and hook the reservoir up. That's the plan anyway. Those hoses are shoved up through there. I can sort of see that mark. This is kind of like building a ship in a bottle. Lubricate these this way with a little bit of brake fluid. Let's see if I can get them on there. Okay, they're on there. Guess I should make sure this thing shuts. Yes, it does. So the master cylinder's in the car. Went to O'Reilly's and pretty much bought every metric brake line they had in 2 unions. So let's see what we can do to make all this work. So the original setup had one line that came out and went to the switch into one front caliper, and then everything else went over here and teed everywhere else. So what we need to do here is we need to split all this up. So this rear line goes through the tunnel and it's going to run to the back part of the master, and in the front I need to incorporate the brake light switch, and I can use the T that was over here, I think, and come out of that and come over and put another union and go to the front. And then the front line on the left side over here, it's broke, so I need to replace the whole thing. So I think I'll start with the easy one, which is going to be the rear. This nut is seized onto the line, so I don't want to turn that nut. I don't want to break it off. So we're going to kind of do this backwards. So I put a 180-degree bend on this line, ran it over the top of the master, and then looped it around the steering rack and put the union on, and it actually worked out pretty well. Didn't have to cut it. So now I will go ahead and tighten it. Okay, now for the front. So I got a union that can go, it should get in your way. I got a union, Christ, I'm in the light too. Got a union I'm going to put there, and I'll come across with a line, and then we will do something with that T and the brake switch and all that on this side. Let me think about that for a minute. Okay, so now working on the front, I cut this line. I need to flare it now. One important thing to do before you flare is make sure you put the nut on, because your best flare is always the one without a nut on it. So this is kind of 3/16 brake line, so we're going to go in the 4.75 millimeter hole here. brake fluid for lubrication. Alright, that should be a perfect metric bubble flare. So thus far, I have run the rear around and put a union going to the back. I put the T for the front and ran this line up, around, and into this banjo fitting with the brake light switch. So the front brake circuit will go out here to the middle. It will split, go the other side on the existing line, and then we'll have to run one back across all the way over to this hose up here. And you're just going to see my elbows if I try to film this, so I'll bring you back. So this is what we ended up with. Brake line over to the left front, comes around over to this T in the middle. Comes off of this, and hook the brake light switch back up, and those are the hoses coming down. So I think we're ready to pour some brake fluid in here and see if it all comes running out somewhere. No brake fluid's poured out yet. Now we need to get our push rod back in the master cylinder. You know what, I'm going to go put some anti-seize on this. Doesn't quite want to reach. Well, that sucks. There we go. Wasn't crazy about pushing on the brake pedal yet. Oil. Now we'll resort to a beating. Come on. So there's that much of the pedal that does nothing, which is all we need. Okay, so the brakes are bled, wheels back on. One part, if you do this yourself, you don't want to forget, is the rear calipers. Can't see it, and there's a brake bleeder right inside there, but there's also one on the inside half of the caliper and a little pipe that runs around and connects them. Don't forget to bleed both of them. That kicked my ass for a little bit. So all this is back in here. Now we will put the floorboard back in. So we go down to about an inch above the accelerator. We were pretty much level with it before. And we don't have that pump up action. So I think this will be a success. So we'll get the floorboard and all this put back together. My accelerator pedal may have finally bit the dust, so I may look for a new one of those. things are about shot too. So up front, nothing's leaking still. Underneath, no lines are going to rub on anything that I can see. Boot for the brake light switch is kind of beat, so we'll put the protection plate back on. It probably hadn't been on here in years. There's supposed to be nuts that hold this on. I don't know where they went. They've been gone for years. They're pretty big too, but it's not like it's going to go anywhere. Guys, we just came back from a successful test drive and we were able to stop and nothing fell off. Till next time, thanks for watching and subscribing.